Hello and welcome to Low Code Campfire. This is episode number 243 for Friday, May 15th, 2026. I am Dale Warner, Head of Support for Plantain App, and today we'll talk about Red Alert, the new dashboard, plus anything else you want to talk about. This is an event that we do Fridays, 10 a.m. Central Time. It's an opportunity for us to get together, talk about what's going on behind the scenes at Plantain App and on your projects within Plantain App. It's all skill levels welcome. So if you're listening in replay, please join us sometime. Fridays, 10 a.m. Central Time. We record all these and put them on YouTube, so you can get to that at our YouTube channel, youtube.com/plantainapp. We run this agenda week by week. We always start with introductions because we're a friendly group, and then we go around the campfire. We always do first call on anything you've submitted in advance, but then we talk about other things like our contributions to our campfire community website, the Plantain App community, community.plantainapp.com, feature requests, but after an hour or so, we go into Afterglow. That's our off-the-record segment. So if you have a few minutes, stick around for that as well. We ask that you engage with us. This is a conversation. If you're waiting for me to present something, well, I always have something in my pocket to present, but it really is best when it's all interactive. You can submit questions and topics in advance using the support@plantainapp.com email address. I'll do a little bit of research, put it on the agenda, and we can talk about whatever it is that you're facing. So with that, I will stop and say hello. Welcome, one and all.
Hello.
Good morning, everyone.
Greetings from cloudy California.
We never quite can tell where you're going to be, Don.
Usually Chicagoland, although if it's in the winter, I would hope it's farther south. And then this particular thing is a special occasion. Our son is is graduating today from Cal Arts, and very excited about that. So
Oh,
we're here for that.
very nice.
But I was able to get the Wi-Fi working in the hotel, and here I am.
Well, perfect. So we jump right on to first call. Anybody with anything that you want to talk about first? This is also the don't be shy segment. All right, I'm going to jump into my stuff.
Actually, sorry, I was trying to find the unmute button.
Okay, the
Um,
timing is perfect. Let's go with yours. Let's go.
I was just a quick question. If anyone has successfully interfaced with a one-time password multi-factor authentication application through Plantain App.
There is a YouTube where we've done this.
Because I'm playing around with it now, and I'm going to try to see if I can incorporate it into my existing email-based MFA. And give users the option. But if there is a step-by-step on how to do it, that would save me having to reinvent the wheel.
Well, Dale's looking for that. I can say that I've definitely done that. Uh, we use, I don't know who you would want to use to send your, if you're doing it by text, I don't know who you'd want to use to send your messages, but we use Twilio. So, but there's, but I mean, I did a lot of things a little bit differently, maybe, but
Oh, but you're talking about doing your own internal MFA, because if you're using Twilio, then it's similar to like sending out an email, except you're sending it as a text.
yeah.
Yeah, I'm trying to avoid, well, not avoid. I'm looking to expand my existing email MFA to actually use an authenticator app. So the user
Oh,
will
an
be able to
authenticator app.
choose.
Okay,
Yeah,
I
they'll
see.
be
Yep,
able to
yep.
choose between Duo, Microsoft, Google, whatever their authenticator app is, but to show that like QR code so that they can create the link to their authenticator app, and then when they go to log in, they just type in the code and from the app, and then they can log in.
Yeah, I didn't really even pursue an authenticator app because I don't really like them.
I don't either, but again,
Yeah,
my
yeah.
agency, like they're really big on having the multi-factor authentication. They really want to push Duo on everybody. I mean, as it stands, just when I'm in the office, I have to like log in through Duo at least 4 times. When I work remotely, I'm not exaggerating when I tell you it's like 9 times just because of logging into the laptop. Then I have to log into the VPN. Then from the VPN, I RDP and RDP triggers it again. And then from RDP, I got RDP on my server. It's just compounding. It's a pain,
Mhm.
but they're really big on it. And even though I do have MFA through email, I figure before they get to me and say, "Hey, we want you to incorporate Duo." I was like, "Well, let me just start looking at it now."
So we do it 3 different ways. Well, 4 actually. One's not really used that much, but it's either through email, SMS, WhatsApp, or a phone call. So we
Okay.
do give choices.
Yeah, the only thing is like I'm assuming I don't know about the WhatsApp one, but I know the phone call and the text message, that must be some service that you have to pay for in order to integrate that
Hmm.
type of thing.
Yes, it is.
Um, I don't know about the WhatsApp. Is WhatsApp free to do that?
No, it's also through Twilio.
Oh, okay. Yeah, see that's like the other issue that I have, being that we're an educational agency. It's like they're always looking for whatever can be given free. Like trying to purchase anything is a nightmare.
Hmm.
I think this
But
is pretty much where red tape, the term, comes from.
Yeah.
I'm pretty sure it's this one. Cafe 44. I've put the link in the chat. But
Thank you.
um, the setting up the authenticator and logging in using the authenticator, these links, I'm pretty sure, um, lets you use Google Authenticator without too much effort. So, and I know I've been through it. It's been a while. I don't think I have an example on Campfire, but I think this is the one. So, I think it's a starting spot.
I appreciate it.
Absolutely. And I'll look one more place here.
While you're doing that, a quick question. You mentioned that the cafe says the Google Authenticator, but is it a standard so that I've never run into a login authentication where it says use Google Authenticator or use Duo or use, it just says you could use your authenticator. So like what Ben said originally. So I'm wondering, is it a standard so that I don't have to worry about people complaining I'm not using their authenticator?
And the answer is I don't know.
I could
My
partially answer that, I think. Um, it depends on how you use the authenticator. If you're using what's known as a top P, which is time-based one-time password,
Yes.
you can use any authenticator because that's based off of kind of like a salt value that you supply initially when the person adds it to their authenticator. So it's hard to explain. When you generate the QR code, that QR code has built into it that you generated a salt that gets stored into whatever authenticator you use, one of those three or however many more in the future come out if they all use the same standard. Um, Once it's in the authenticator, then all you have to do is open the authenticator, tap on that entry, and it's going to give you the 6-digit code for this moment in time. and then that's what you put into whatever your system is. So again, if you're going to use it in that respect, using a TOTP, then you can use any authenticator. However, if you don't use a TOTP and you want to do like a push notification, that's going to be specific to whatever authenticator app you're going to use. You would then have to use their APIs. You would probably have to have their service, pay for it, whatever, so forth, so on. So if you're looking to get, like I said, a push notification when the person logs in, like your phone beep, and then you see the code on there, that's different than using the TOTP, which is you then open up the Authenticator app and you just get the current rolling code for your application. Does that make sense?
Yeah, I see that. I'm thinking I would probably just offer the OTP, but I get what you're saying. And I've seen those before where it pops up on another app saying, "Hey, is this you?" or "Give me your code," or "Is this
Yeah,
okay to
I mean,
log
that's
in?"
what our
It's very
agency
nice.
uses. We use
Yeah,
Duo, and when I log into my computer, I get a push notification on my phone.
yeah,
But there, like I said, that you have to pay for because you're really integrating with that application and you're asking for that push notification, which is a service.
right.
But if you just do it as a TOTP, it's just basically it's like that old back in the day. I don't, they probably still use them, but I don't know if you remember. Um, some places used to give you like a little key fob with an LED display on it, and every few seconds the number would change. So when you
Uh-huh.
log into a system, you just pull out your keys, look at that key fob, and type in whatever number's on there. It's that same idea. It's a rolling code, but it's specific to that user and the salt that you initially gave them when they created it.
That makes sense. Yeah, I know old systems. I used to use a pager even, so.
My recollection on this Google one that I pointed you towards is that you have to send it something which results in a um, in the QR code. So there's an API call, and I believe there's an API call when it's time to validate that the code that they entered. But it'd be an interesting exploration to see if I mean what you just pointed out, the code should be the same across Authenticator apps, and so even though you might be validating it with a API call to Google, it might not matter which service is actually generating the code. So anyway, hopefully that'll give you a start on that. It'd be interesting to.
Along the same lines, as long as we're talking about it, many of the authenticators, once you put the code in without hitting any kind of a submit button, type in the last value, or you just Control V into the field, it immediately begins authenticating. Um, Wondering if that's something that Planet App does, so that you just put something in a field and not have to add a submit button.
I think because I thought about that, and I think that that you could do that with some JavaScript. But I chose not to simply because I wanted people to have the chance to confirm they put in the code right instead of just, if they didn't do it, then they get an error message.
Yeah, that's true. Yeah, that's true.
So I purposely didn't do it, but I think that you could probably with some JavaScript, you see the last entry, um, see that the field has enough digits, and then kick off your verification.
Got it. Yeah.
Something along this line, with the in the on field change logic, um, would let you do to test to see whether there's 6 characters and then decide to proceed. You could push a hidden button. That's what's going on with this, pushing the hidden button save dot click. So I'm sure it could be done with JavaScript. We don't have a when you hit 6 characters submit functionality in the product.
Got it.
All right, good question. And Ben, this is not criticism, it's just reality that your quick questions are never quick. It always generates a discussion, and that's a good thing. All right, now we're on to second call. Who has something? That contribution I just brought up a second ago, that was Mark's, and I see Mark is here today quietly. And I go back to that one many, many times. That's a thank you again. All right, I am going to show you kind of a what's next thing here. We are adding a new feature. It is in the next cumulative hotfix, or at least it is planned to be in. I learned today we found something that is a little bit of a conflict we're trying to resolve, because in order to do this next feature, it uses an automation and some workflows, and one of the things that we didn't think through when we release these low-code components is that we have to make very certain that we don't collide with any names that you have for automations or workflows or tokens, anything. So we try to prefix things with PAA, and I would consider PAA, by the way, to be a restricted. Try not to use that, because then you open yourself up for those things. But anyway, found out that this new feature didn't use an absolute prefix, and so it opens up the possibility, if you've named things like we've named things, then we could overwrite your things, and so we want to fix that before we release it. But assuming that once we resolve that, or at least warn you about it so you can check before you install it, whatever we do, next week or two, you're going to see this on the configuration page. There's this, and this is just a system I use to test our early software, that the old welcome, or I can't even remember now what the menu option was. The first menu option was getting started. Thank you. Well, getting started gets to be old after a couple of years, so we've decided, instead of doing getting started, we're going to do a dashboard. It's going to look something like this, and it's going to have health check kinds of things, and we're releasing it with an initial 5. We already have at least 3 more planned, and this is just going to be an ever expanding, well, expanding and contracting. At version 128, certain well, I'll explain in a minute, but we may well be, they may be alerts that apply at 128 that don't apply at 129. We'll remove them, things like that. But health checks that bring you quickly to issues that you as administrator need to know about your system. So this one is a pretty good example of what you may see when you use this feature. So I'll just walk through these that we have. SQL user has necessary rights. This is where we're checking to make sure that when the user, that is every DNN instance has a user that connects to the database. It has a username and a password, and in the SQL level that you have rights associated with that user. We really like it if you give us DB owner rights, if you have DB owner rights on that user. And we count on it for certain things like creating and editing schemas in the database. And so when you try to give us minimum rights, if it doesn't include that schema thing, then certain things that happen during upgrades will fail. So we're trying to pre-check this, make sure that we have the right amount of rights. And so when it's good, you'll see 0, 0, 0. You don't have any warnings or mediums or criticals on that thing. So this system has necessary rights. Database compatibility level can be a thing. So certain sometimes people upgrade their databases so their SQL Server is running at a current, but if you forget to change the compatibility level connected with that database, then we can only use the features that are at that compatibility level, and we can't use the features that are later, which ends up causing issues. So if when we know about what the compatibility level that you need, we will either give you if you're below that level, we'll give you a critical warning and we'll explain how to fix it. Or if you're at below what we hope you have, then we give it as a warning. And so this one is the first one that would be useful to dig into. You can, when you have one of these that's a warning, you can click into it and it will tell you. So the database is on a SQL Server 2017 compatibility, which is 140, and that is supported, but it's giving you guidance to upgrade it to 150 plus. SQL Server 2019 is recommended. So if your SQL Server 2017 is 9 years old, it's kind of at the edge of the um, uh, useful life period. So I mean, I think we have a policy of 10 years back. I'm not sure on SQL Server, but typically, so it's just kind of, this is a warning. Something you should think about it. But in terms of the dashboard itself, there is a resolve button, which tells you much more detail. So it's explaining all of what I just did, what our minimum level is, how to change it. We can't change it for you here. We're pointing to our documentation, so you can click the read more link and see our compatibility levels. So minimum is SQL Server 2016 currently for the version 1.28. But yeah, just the mechanism is take a look at this and here's what you should think about to fix it. So before I go on, questions, opinions?
So it's not resolving it, it's telling you what you can do to resolve it, right?
Right. We have, as far as I know, we have no plans to actually do anything when the resolve button is pointing you towards how to resolve it, not doing the thing. So we want to. Should be considered a read-only tool if that was your question.
Yeah. So the links being resolved, I was just thinking maybe the link should just be help. The hypertext is you're not resolving it, you're just helping me figure out how to.
You should will maybe the link should be renamed something other than resolve, but the perspective is I'm an admin and I want to resolve this issue, so teach me more about how to resolve it. But if that implies action, I'll take that as if you have a better suggestion of what is, you said help, or guide me, perhaps, I don't know.
Guide me or maybe read more.
Yeah.
Resolve sounds too active, huh? All right.
I would just say
Yeah.
that if I saw that link resolve
I'd be afraid to click
initially,
it.
yeah, I was just gonna say that initially I might be hesitant to click it because I'm thinking by clicking it, it's gonna do something.
Um, I'm going to skip ahead here. Well, actually, let me check. Nope, we haven't put anything there yet. Let's see what we're saying in our documentation. This dashboard is showing, and so our documentation does let you know what's going to happen with that it's guidance, but I'll bring it to the team to for better wording, like guide me. All right. In terms of the tools that are here, there is a recycle button, and when you click this, it causes this particular alert to be reconsidered. And so if something were fixed, or if we change this compatibility level, for example, and click this, it would go to 0 if we had fixed it. So it gives you the ability to do that. These alerts are set up typically to run once per day. And automatically. So when you browse to this page, it's not actually running the alerts. It's giving you the information from the last time that it ran. All right, so then the other three that we're providing, it is all about things that are obsolete and how to fix it. So in version 1.28 and prior, these Bootstrap 3 has been considered obsolete for a long time. We're removing it in version 1.29. So you're going to need to know that you're clear of this before you upgrade. And as a matter of fact, there are plans to tie this alerting system in with the updater so that if there's any open alerts that will break things after the upgrade, we can prevent you from upgrading until it happens. So we're going to build in some protection against that.
Before you jump further, can I just
Sure.
say one thing? You had mentioned how this grid will periodically update. It's not at the time that you load it. I myself have created certain things that do similar stuff, and I ended up with suggestions, let's say, from users. In a situation like that, maybe somewhere on that grid, this is what I do. I just basically create a button on the grid that says something like last loaded or last applied, or something to that effect, saying the last time that this information was gathered was on, and then a date and a time, so if the information might be stale.
Thank you. Good note.
I think there's an example of that on the updates tab.
Yes. So cumulative effect. We have
Yep, first prior to May 15th.
thank you. Good suggestion.
While you're on that topic, another thought might be is to build in a refresh button right in there. I do that a lot with my listings, so that somebody can look at it and then just hit a button and have it go recheck.
Good suggestion. Thank you. All right. So a couple of features that are built into this, see that we have some exceptions and closed. So if you had followed the instructions and changed the compatibility level, then when the next time that the refreshed, this would show up as closed. And so you would see that it would go from, this would be 0 in green, this would be a count of 1. So you could see that things were closed. You'd be able to then look in, the history is there. You'd be able to look at your closed alerts as well. In my case, I cannot resolve this because the SQL Server that's installed is, I think let's assume that I can't, that I'm running at SQL Server 2017 And so I can't go to SQL. If I don't have SQL 2019, I can't set a higher compatibility level. It would keep me from doing that. So there is a built-in thing that once you've considered it, you can mark something as an exception. And then, so if in your decision this is not a valid alert, or you don't want to deal with it, you can move it to an exception, and it continues as an exception, and you can see why you did the exception. You can change it back to an alert if you want to as well. So, makes sense?
So you're saying even after you put an except, you can clear that exception later?
Yeah, if I want to if I want to put this back as, if I now consider this, I'm sorry, it is active. If I want to change it, if I now consider it to be something that's critical, I can reclassify it myself. So you can move it out, and then you can reevaluate and get it to close, or in this case, it reevaluates it to becoming a warning. But yes, exceptions can later be moved to closed by taking them off the exception list.
So again, just sorry.
Yeah,
I just saw you hit the refresh button, so it went back to a warning. Does that mean it erased your exception?
no, I had moved uh, um, I had moved it from being an exception to one of the active values. Once it's active, when it's an exception, it'll remain an exception until you clear it. But once it moves back into an active state, then the refresh will evaluate it according to the rules that are behind it.
Okay.
So it would be quite valid to consider this one an exception, and we can do these. These are doable in bulk. Or whatever we're going to call it, but this will remain an exception now, and we can leave it alone. So on these obsolete Bootstrap 3 things, this is, I think, where it gets a little bit more interesting. I have 60 forms and 3 tabs and 20 listings that all have Bootstrap 3. We have plans to expand this because there's other things that have Bootstrap 3 that I didn't address in this first round. But when you click on these, it gives you a list and it tells you exactly where. So the login form on the PAP login page in a particular pane is using Bootstrap 3. And interestingly, the resolve button tells you what to do. Bootstrap 3 is obsolete and it's going to be removed in 129, and that things should be migrated. And we've got a documentation topic that tells you how to converting from to Bootstrap 5. The resolve issue button brings you to the actual form edit page so that it'll essentially navigate you to the page where you can impact the thing. And so we could change this to a different template by doing the back button, as you're familiar with, will now be on the page where this thing exists. So it's helping you to navigate directly to it without actually changing it. It's still read-only.
That's really nice.
In the same way with tabs, if we go in and take a look at these, it'll take you into the manage tabs for that particular thing so that you can find it and fix it. It occurred to me as I was looking at it and thinking about these things this morning that lots of these things are part of on this particular site, it's part of our entities, and so you might have a better way of resolving this than changing it at the form level, for example, because what do we have? SLA selection rules is an entity, and so we should probably remind you that entities have this setting that lets you change to Bootstrap 5 that way as well. So some things might be better to resolve as an entity than at the individual form level, but either is acceptable. Out of curiosity, and so now, I love to do things live. It's gonna change this automatically to Bootstrap 5. I'm gonna save it because, well, it blew up. What is that? This might be an unrelated thing going on with mine. Let's see what happens when we go to the dashboard and refresh this thing. No change to the numbers, so it didn't accurately change it. So that's yet another problem. But yes. So as a general feature, not necessarily those particular alerts, but can you see where we're going with this? I'm trying to warn you about things that need to be solved.
I think this is
I don't
looking
know
pretty
about-
cool, Dale.
Yeah, very much so. I don't know about you guys, the rest of you, but I was thinking that what forms are using an obsolete action might be a nice health check.
You're you're right on track with me, Don. There's a project that I have going on right at this moment that there is an obsolete action. The execute API action. We obsoleted that when we moved APIs to a core feature of the product instead of it being a separate module. And so that's one of the things that is going away in version 1.29. So being able to point out that you have used this action somewhere and it needs to be solved before you. I mean, it's one thing for it to be obsolete but still supported, but now we're removing support for it, so we need to let you know.
Yeah, and then moving from warning to critical could be it's marked as obsolete but still works, and you're going to
Yep.
take it out in the next version. I don't know how many others have this, but for those that have any projects that you didn't do yourself or your memory is not all that great, you dread doing upgrades because am I going to break it? So by having a list of what's going to be obsolete and you see that you've got a breaking change in the next upgrade, you can quickly, especially with the link that goes straight to editing the forms, you can just knock them out one after the other and not worry about where they are. So that's kind of neat.
One of the things that made creating this dashboard timely and alerts like that is that at Plant and App version 1.28, all of the actions are in the PAA.actions table. And so instead of them being spread out in a variety of places, again, quick history, when Plant and App was many different modules that all could be used independently, actions were stored in tables that were specific to that. So there's forms were stored in forms tables and grid actions were stored in grid tables and things like that. So now they're all stored in one place. Everything's been migrated to PAA actions. So it makes it very easy for us to look for obsolete actions. And then once they're found, it's a matter of telling you where they're being used and so where to go to do that. I have a tool that I did as a form. I'm converting that into a workflow because we don't want to introduce a form. But if you think about it, actions can be in a lot of different places, and so telling you exactly where, is it an API action, is it in an automation, is it in a workflow, where is it, is it in an execute actions inside an execute actions that's in a workflow, can be kind of tricky to tell you exactly where to go look for it. But we don't want to just tell you you have this. We want to tell you where to go find it. So you're absolutely on the same track where
That's
we're
cool.
going. And Jim has his hand raised because he's a polite guy. Jim, did you have something? All right, we'll come
I
back.
don't think his audio is working. I see him unmuting himself, but I don't hear anything.
Yep. Okay.
Hey Dale, I got a question for you.
Yes, sir.
You were showing us the action grids that needed to be updated or upgraded. There was a link to go to the settings for that. Is there also a link I didn't notice to see that page? Because once I update it, I'd want to check it out.
So what's built in. So here's a listing. Excuse me, a listing of all the listings that are in Bootstrap 3. The resolve issue migrates you to, takes you to the grid management page. But remember that when you're there's only one link that we're providing through this dashboard thing. So we thought the thing that was going to be most helpful was taking you to the listing admin, realizing that you can click the back button and see the page itself. So the path is there without explicitly taking you to the page. We could have chosen to take you to the page. We thought it was more helpful to take you to the admin screen. Does that answer your question?
Yes, it does. Sorry about the background noise, but yes, it does. Thank you.
You bet. All right.
I'll see if I have a working mic this time.
Hey, you do.
Okay. My question was, if is there thought that at some point we would be able to define our own alerts, for something in our application and have it show up in the dashboard?
Why, yes, there is. We haven't decided when we would like to open that up, but because it's going to take some additional work for us to make this low-code engineer friendly. But at the core of this, there are two things behind creating an alert. One is that a workflow has to exist that returns its core job would be to determine it would be the logic behind a particular alert, and it returns a defined JSON structure. So not too hard to do. You just have to, so it's a workflow that has to hit a particular mark. And then there's a database record that is that points to that workflow. And so everything in the whatever table is behind this, I think it's called alerts something, but adding a record in that table and pointing to the workflow, telling it how often it should run, is the mechanism. So it's not terribly difficult to write an alert. One workflow, one record in a table somewhere. And so there's definitely thought about allowing you to open up and add your own things that could be very application specific.
I like that. The other one I would like to see is some way to have an alert analysis of some logs to look for trouble. that more bad actor type issues than things that are, a system problem.
That's a really great topic. I'm writing it as useful alerts, and so log analysis. If there's anything that would be a DNN or Planted apps that it would be useful to everyone, not just in your scenario. If you want to call out any titles and descriptions, I'll be happy to put them on the list of things that we could provide.
I don't have one at the top of my head here, but I'll think about it and send you some as I analyze logs.
I'm one of those lazy guys that don't jump in and look at the logs all the time, but I do start up Plan an App configuration all the time. So seeing something that says, go look at your logs, you got a problem, would be helpful.
So one of them we had, so log analysis, there was a bad actor is kind of one classification, and then high error count, or what would these be? Just errors. Yeah, I'll think about this. We have a Campfire. There's an analysis. I wonder if this would translate. Event summary. This is the one I was thinking about. I'll just take that offline or something to think about, but knowing that there's unhandled error loading module, that there's 80 of these things. Some of these are nuisance errors that don't mean anything, but others are more important and known that something needs to be resolved. So maybe we could take things off of this list and surface them. So I had put down SQL database type things. That's on the list. So SQL, if you're using SQL Express and have a limit on your size of database, that knowing where you are relative to the size of the database would be helpful. Oftentimes I see database logs that are larger than the database itself, and it just means the database needs to be shrunk, the logs need to be shrunk, and so surfacing that kind of information would be, I think, useful as well. Someone else with a favorite thought?
And it's being polite and has his hand up now.
I'll call on
Oh,
you,
I
Ben.
forgot about that. No, I was just actually gonna say to Jim that I actually have created kind of like a dynamic dashboard that allows you on the website to on the fly create new alerts. So if you want to ever take a look at that, just shoot me an email and I can set up a Zoom if you want to look at it.
Sounds interesting.
And I also happen to have a similar that what you were just saying, Dale, kind of checking the logs and giving alerts. The only thing is mine goes a little bit further. It actually sends out an email if something pushes past a threshold that's set.
Mm-hmm. Um, in these that's a really, actually, I'm going to put that into the suggestion list is threshold notifications. Because some things, I mean, this is a little bit passive, and being able to turn on notifications, I think, would be useful. Trying to figure out where we go with all this stuff. But as a version 1, I hopefully you'll find it useful. Hopefully you'll use it. Give us some suggestions. Good. Any last thoughts before I move on to, well, anything else in the list?
No, great thing. I like it.
In our sometimes we talk about what's changes in our documentation. I had already showed you that we had documented that new dashboard. The SQL transaction behavior in the run SQL query action contains explanation of this, but it also contains there's this new feature, use transactions, and the ability to turn it off. So that is this functionality, I think, is in the cumulative hotfix waiting to go out, and so you should have this by next week. But we're keeping up with it in the documentation, and maybe as just a slightly larger encouragement, we're starting to write as we're doing the work. As we decide things that need to change within our product, we're also documenting that the documentation needs to change, which then this is something that our quality assurance team is taking up. And bottom line is we're building updates to the documentation into the cycle as instead of an afterthought. So that's encouraging to me. All right. We have here. Yep, so we've covered those two things. There was on the community, close tabs to the right on community. There was this topic, Razor script failing. I think this was a Ben topic, if you wanted. It was. And this turned into, so Ben reported seeing something that wasn't working right, and this turned into something that turns out is a broken feature in 1.28. So if you're doing a Razor token that is looking for token params, let's see if I can find it here. This is trying to read token params in 1.27. If you call the token without explicitly passing in parameters, it would just use the defaults. Token params would exist and could be defaulted. In 128, it throws an error. So this form where you're passing in the parameters, it'll work, but this form where you let everything default doesn't. And so this turned out to be a bug that we ended up reporting to development to get to work. So thanks for asking the question, Ben, and gets us to try to fix things. The token engine, just as maybe a final reminder. Oh well, here's a spot. If anybody has a topic before we go, we got 3 minutes left. So if you have one, bump in here. I'm just going to keep talking a little bit. The token engine was rewritten in version 1.28, and we're finding that most things worked really well. One thing that we learned that this week was that the community forum project, the DNN community forum, if you use that by default, it had some tokens that were in the form of A:B:C, and that was a format that we had said, no, we're not supporting that anymore, and didn't realize that it would break community forums, so we have a fix for that now, and that's coming up as well. So the hazards of rewriting things is you got to take all the cases into consideration, and we're still working our way through that. 2-minute warning. I still didn't write anything new in contributions in Campfire. I don't think anybody else has either. And so we have arrived at full stop. Thanks for joining us. I will never find the button. It moves again. It moves every time. There it goes. Anyway, thanks for joining us. We'll do this again next week, and happy low coding.